So what we're going to show here is a simple crack repair. Then again, everybody has their own techniques. I'm a firm believer in making a bonding strip for everything that we do. GM put these cars together with bonding strips, so if you can have a bonding strip for a repair, in my mind, it's the way to do it. We're just kind of copycatting what GM did by bonding the car together with pieces. We're going to make our bonding strips. So we started off with a side fender because I wanted it to be uniform. So I cut that bonding strip, front leading edge, off of a side fender we had laying around. So that's my bonding strip. We have one little crack up here. And sure, you could put a bonding strip on the back of it, but when you run your hands back there, you're going to feel it. We're going to have a bonding strip that's going to make it uniform, and when we finish it off, you're not going to tell it's in there. So we have one crack on this fender, and I think we have a couple on the other one. We made 2 long bonding strips. And the other thing is, where you have a crack, don't leave any of the crack there. Give it a little notch. So now your bonding strips are going to go in here, and we're going to clamp it. We got all kinds of clamps we've invested in over the years. So we're going to fit our clamp. We're going to say, okay, there's where we want our clamps. And I always tend to mark where I want my clamps because I've done a dry fit. And I also mark the back side of my bonding strip. So now I know exactly where that bonding strip goes. We had another little crack right here. We're able to grind between the fender and the bonding strip, and we made a little one that's going to sneak in there, and then we'll finish that off, and the finger will think it's feeling just part of the original bonding strip right there. Always try to finish off a repair so you can't tell it's been repaired. And then we'll show you some more as we go. It's my little bonding strip I made. And I made a little one here because it's right by this main bonding strip. So when I tuck it in there, you're not going to know that's a bonding strip. Same token here on this bonding strip. Already taken ground down that outer edge. So that outer edge, when you finish it off, it's already ground down. We come in here and finish this off, and we'll show it to you after a while. We're going to show this trick again. This is our epoxy that we like to use. We do sell it. It's a 2-to-1 mix. The big can is 2, little can is 1. And set of gram scales. Make sure your cup is zeroed out. And this is for our repair of what we're doing. I like to do it this way with we make our own batches instead of the 2-part mixed tubes where you're going to lose a bunch in a tube, or if you don't use it all within a short period of time, you lose it. This is a can that seals up good. After a while, you get an idea of how much you're going to use on a regular basis. So we're going to bond in these 2 bonding strips along the side fenders, and then we've got a couple more that we're going to do around the parking light panel. And so to get our 2-to-1 mix, we're going to go with 100 of the epoxy itself, 100 grams. So naturally we're going to go with 50 of the hardener. Okay, pretty simple, sealed up tight. We have our baggie ready. And we're going to go over to the car before we mix this. So now we're getting ready to bond in our bonding strips. I have a total of about 6 of them. First thing I always remember is to blow off the back side of your part that you're putting the bonding strip on and the bonding strip. Want to make sure we have all the dust out of our way. And the other thing I like to do is wipe it down good with thinner. That for sure you get all the dust out of there. Nothing likes to stick to dust for some reason. So you got to clean it good. Make sure all your dust is out of the way. So I've made 2 bonding strips also for my front parking lights and also for my headlights to make them nice and strong. I'm gonna get my other side prepped. I already blew the other side off, so I know all my dust is out of here and everything is marked, so I know everything's gonna line up, or at least it should. I made one of those little cheater bonding strips right here because it's right at the end. I can hide that one. So what I like about the epoxy that we use here is it's a 2-part. It has a nice body to it. It'll hold itself in place for the most part. Other epoxies are well as can be. I'm a firm believer in epoxy because my first experience when I started in this business was 1972, and before we knew it, a 73 Corvette came into the shop and they changed the fiberglass and went to sheet molded compound, SMC. Hung a quarter panel. Quarter panel literally fell off overnight because of the bonding materials that we were using back then was polyester base. It's the kind where you add the like Bondo hardener to it. Very popular back then. Still out there, but epoxy takes longer to cure. And so the pot life on this that we have here is probably a good 45 minutes. So we're not rushing for any reason. When you're hanging a front clip, everybody's always in a rush. You watch some guys hang panels and they're rushing because they're using a polyester product. We use a epoxy with a slow hardener, and so it gives you plenty of pot life, plenty of time to work it. Why it's in a mass, if it's in the baggie or if it's in a cup, naturally it's going to kick quicker. But once you get it out and spread it around, that extends your pot life, which time to work with materials slows down the chance of screwing up because you get in a hurry. So if you slow down a little bit and you're not worried about it kicking on you, I think you'll see where you're further ahead.
Or the feel?
Just about a couple minutes worth of time. You know, you're mixing it up good. Yeah, it's black. It's hard to know if it's mixed 100%, but you spend 2 minutes mixing it, and it'll be mixed thoroughly. So I'm gonna take and cut a little vent hole in one side of my bag at the one end where I'm gonna hold it. Then I'm gonna come up here and cut a little tip off of that bag. And so I have my bonding strip for my parking light. My other side has fractures in it. This one doesn't, but I want to mirror everything. On a car like this, I want to mirror it so if somebody looks in there, it's the same from side to side. If this guy decides someday to not drive his car for an afternoon and go to a car show and wants to be judged, and you get a judge that's trying to decide between 2 cars, he's looking for fault, well, do your best not to give him a fault to find. And so I always try to mirror something. And it may not seem like a lot, but it's those little gigs that'll get you right in the butt. And so that's a tight spot that I can get into pretty simple with this baggie. And I've already marked this. This is my bonding strip that I made to go on there. And I've tapered the edge on it. And I always put product on both pieces. I put it on the car and I put it on the bonding strip. Because then you know that you're going to get good adhesion. So there's that bonding strip. Just to play it safe, I'm going to fasten it. A little masking tape does a great job. It'll hold that in place. You never see me use a screw. Screws can come back to haunt you. You may think it's a great idea, but a screw is, in this case, not a good idea when you're putting something together like this. So I'm getting everything the furthest away from me, so I'm not getting my arm laid in the last thing that I want to buy. So I can kind of walk around this, get it covered. This is kind of a fragile area here. Somebody in the past had put low bonding strips in here, but I ground them out because I want a full bonding strip to be in here. This is a bonding strip that I made, and I laid it down so I know the side that I'm going to put my epoxy on is the side that's facing up. And so it just makes it simple to put it on. You can use the baggy trick on a polyester product. But you got to keep in mind, once you get it in the bag, it's in a mass. It's going to kick quicker, but you can also put it on quicker. So if you just push it enough where it oozes out a little bit, you know that you got it. Then I have two clamps sitting here, and I'm going to clamp it in place. There's times that a clamp won't work, and I'll use a 2x2 or something to wedge if that needs to be. And I marked around the outer perimeter with my little Sharpie so I know where to stop at. But it's like anything else. You got to play with it. You got to practice it till you get it to where you remember what your next step is always. You always got to be thinking ahead of the next step. But be patient with this. You don't have to be in a hurry. So there's the back side with it applied. We're applied good there. We know it's going to go all the way up to the front. Something else you notice is the gloves. Sometimes you get your fingers in there and do a nice radius, and then when you're all done, peel the gloves off. Even though they're 70 cents for a pair of gloves today, kind of crazy, but they're in demand. And we have one last little bonding strip that we're tucking in up front here. You can see where we've ground between the bonding strip and the fender because there was a little crack. So when we're done, we'll finish that off and you won't feel that bonding strip hiding in there. We have a little spot here that we ground out, but we didn't need a bonding strip because it's right where the bonding strip marriage is up. We're going to finish that off right now. Backfill it with our epoxy. Anytime we have any repair to do, a filling, we fill it with epoxy. Epoxy cures out, it's done. Polyester products, they clear to they harden to their highest temperature. Right now, we're like 65, 67, 8 in here. It's middle of the winter in Michigan. So the polyester, it only gets this, stops moving at its hottest temperature. And so, when you bring the car out in the middle of the summertime for the first time, and you expose it to the heat, a couple of factors. If there's a polyester product bonded together, there's a chance of it shrinking, because that's when it's going to do it. And so when you start mixing too many different products together, vinyl ester resin versus production resin, polyester bonding material versus epoxy, everything's shrinking at a different rate. Bonding strips are usually 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch wide, so don't be afraid to open up a crack, put a bonding strip behind it. And my suggestion is to use epoxy. Doesn't necessarily have to be ours, but my suggestion is to use epoxy. Take your time with it. It's not going to go anywhere. And remember where you put it so you don't lean into it. How's it looking there, Andrew?
Great.
Looks uniform. I'm done. I'm going to be cleaning up my mess. As simple as that. So with epoxy, you can put heat to it, heat lamp. Generally keep it about 18 inches away. That's going to really get it hot. It's going to shrink up anything and everything possible. It'll speed up the cure. But keep in mind, don't always think about speeding. Let that epoxy, I prefer to let it sit and bite in. The longer that it's in its mixed stage before it cures, the more it's biting into that fiberglass. So don't be in a hurry. I always like to, though, let it sit overnight. I'll come in the morning, put a little heat to it for 10 minutes, and then I can start grinding, get it down to that surface like that's where it's ground, then body work it from there. Thanks for watching.